Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Shinkara. Today, we're gonna go last gen for the first time on the show to talk about Clover Studio's first game, Viewtiful Joe. I was sort of out of the loop during the PS2 GameCube days and hadn't really heard about Viewtiful Joe until I played Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Little did I know that there was 4 Viewtiful Joe games, not to mention an anime based on the character. Clover Studio were also responsible for the gorgeous title Okami and the criminally underrated God Hand. Clover Studio eventually closed down, and many key staff members went on to form Platinum Games, known for their over-the-top action titles Bayonetta, Mad World, Vanquish, and upcoming Metal Gear Rising. For now, let's go back to 2003 where it all started and check out the movie-loving action star Viewtiful Joe.
Viewtiful Joe.
The premise for Viewtiful Joe is pretty basic, but it's a great setup for the game and its world. Joe and his girlfriend Sylvia are on a date at the movies when Joe decides watching a movie seems like a better idea than making out.
Go away! Come on!
Then all of a sudden the movie comes to life all Last Action Hero style, and Joe and Sylvia get sucked into movie land. Joe learns from his childhood hero Captain Blue, and eventually becomes the hero we know and love, Viewtiful Joe.
Head to the go-go, baby! You want some? We'll come and get it.
With these newfound powers, Joe is off to defeat the evil in movie land and rescue his beloved Sylvia. I love this story of Viewtiful Joe for its brevity. It tells you everything you need to know in a matter of minutes and then throws you right into the game. Games are all about gameplay, right? So it's refreshing that you're able to jump in almost immediately to get to the fighting. There are funny dialogue sequences here and there to space out the levels, but for the most part, Viewtiful Joe sticks to the gameplay that makes it so good.
Shows you what you know, fat brain.
At its core, Viewtiful Joe is a fairly linear side-scrolling action game. You'll go from room to room taking out all the enemies and then moving on to the next. What makes Viewtiful Joe stand out though are its special effects moves. Joe has the ability to make things go in slow motion, Mach speed, or even get Joe's close-up for extra damage. Viewtiful Joe does a great job of incorporating these powers into both combat and puzzle solving. Certain enemies are nearly impossible to damage or avoid without the slow motion ability. There's everything from furiously spinning ballerinas to gun-toting cowboys that provide a fun challenge and change up the combat from time to time. Speeding everything up makes dealing with large amounts of enemies easy and fun, especially if they don't have any special abilities. You'll have to think of clever ways to use these abilities for defeating bosses though. For example, slowing down time to do more damage to a fast-moving boss, or running fast to put out a fire. The real genius with these powers though come in the environmental puzzles. If you're playing Viewtiful Joe for the first time, you'll often find yourself scratching your head at certain puzzles, wondering how the heck you're supposed to get by. But after some thinking, you'll eventually get through them. Figuring out the puzzles is incredibly satisfying, if not a bit frustrating as well. You'll have to think outside the box a bit if you want to continue advancing through the game, which is what I really enjoyed about the game. Oftentimes, games these days will have something pop up and tell you how to get by, so it's refreshing to go back to something like Viewtiful Joe and challenge yourself a bit. Speaking of challenge, the game can be grueling at times. It starts off simple enough, but a few levels in you'll find yourself wanting to toss your controller out the window. To put things in perspective, my original playthrough took me about 10.5 hours, while my New Game Plus file with all my upgraded abilities took me about 4. It probably helped that I knew how to do all the puzzles the second time around as well. Viewtiful Joe has its frustrating moments. The game is so much fun to play that those moments easily get overshadowed.
What, you think you're some kind of Mega Man or something?
Pretty cool, huh?
Viewtiful Joe continuously exudes flair and style not only through its gameplay but also its visual style and soundtrack. Viewtiful Joe makes use of a grainy filter to make it look like a movie film, along with film strips that run across the top and bottom of the screen during dialogue sequences and special effects moves. Much like Okami, the game makes great use of cel shading graphics to create an eye-catching visual style. Once you play Viewtiful Joe for a while, its graphics will become unmistakable and hard to forget. The character designs are also pretty over the top. Joe and his enemies are very striking and undeniably charming. Something about how cartoony and unproportional the characters are make them easy to like. Even when enemies are giving you the beatdown, you can't help but love them. The soundtrack that accompanies the game is also phenomenal, my personal favorite track being Joe's theme, which you're listening to right now. The upbeat techno and catchy synths will no doubt have your head bobbing constantly. There's also a number of tense tracks to go along with boss fights and challenging levels. The one sour note though is that there's this one level where music is completely absent and it's constantly blasting, "Warning, warning, a bomb has been armed." It's so annoying and it never stops until you complete the level, which is actually rather lengthy. Shut up! Shut up! Viewtiful Joe is also packed with cool extras after you've completed the game. A new game plus mode and harder difficulty unlock, you know, if you're a masochist or something. On the PS2 version, you can play as Dante from Devil May Cry on a mission to save Trish. The only weird thing is they didn't record any new dialogue, and in fact the audio that does play sounds like the original track just played in reverse. And Dante doesn't start off with this coat either, but rather a black thong?
Yummy!
He has the same powers as Joe, except that he can shoot his signature pistols. On the GameCube version, if you juggle these pink bombs for long enough, Joe allegedly whistles the Super Mario Bros. Theme. Now I don't have the GameCube version and I couldn't find any footage online, so let's just pretend for a minute. If this game sounds right up your alley and you're interested in the sequel, it's very similar in design, only now you can swap between Joe and Sylvia on the fly. It took way too long for me to discover Viewtiful Joe, but I'm glad I did because it's one of the most fun and unique series of games out there. If you're like me and never got around to playing Viewtiful Joe, I highly recommend it. If you're crafty enough, you could probably get both 1 and 2 for about 10 bucks. Just be warned that the games can be a little frustrating. If you can get over that though, you're in for a fun ride. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode of Shinkara. Thanks for watching as always, and have a beautiful day. Hey guys, thanks for staying patient and enjoying another one of my videos. By the way, if you haven't followed me on Twitter yet, you can go ahead and do that. It's at Taylor's Shelf. Make sure you get the 2 S's there. And also, make sure you like the video. It'll just make you feel better too, and it makes me feel good. It makes everybody feel good. And if you missed any of my videos, you can click the little links right there and it'll take you right to them. You can enjoy them all over again. And if you haven't subscribed yet, there's the button right there. Go ahead and click it. Have a beautiful day.